Hi, this is John Smith. Welcome to the Psalming Effect for this week. It's July 11th, 2022, and I'm out at Clearview Christian Camp. Most of you know that I'm the minister with the Church of Christ in Weyburn. One of our ministries that we participate and support is Clearview Christian Camp. And so I'm here at Boys Week at the beginning of the week, and that's the setting for today's reflection from the book of Psalms, which I hope will be a blessing to you throughout the week. I'm going to begin with my favorite activity out at camp. I hit the target. Wasn't a bullseye, but I hit the target. Archery. Archery is something that I learned to do when I was a teenager, and then I got training in it in order to teach it to children at camps. And so archery then became my favorite activity out at camp, and I enjoy doing archery. I enjoy canoeing. I enjoy singing around the campfire. I enjoy a lot of things out at camp, but I would have to say that archery is the one activity that I really enjoy a lot. Today's meditation is from Psalm 127, and as soon as I read verses 3 to 5, you'll see why I thought archery was an appropriate introduction to today's meditation. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of a womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. So there in Psalm 127, the writer is comparing having children to a warrior having arrows. And he says a couple of things about that in there. One is that children are a heritage from the Lord. One of the great reasons why I'm very invested at Bible camp, such as Clearview, is because I believe exactly what that verse says. Children are a heritage from the Lord. Even if you don't have your own children, even if the children that come through our lives, the children that are a part of our community, wherever you live, those children are going to follow in your footsteps, especially if you're a parent or a teacher or someone who works with children. But even if you're not someone who works directly with them, there is nevertheless the importance of recognizing that the children who are going to then be the next generation after us, they are a heritage from the Lord, and we need to try and treat them and guide them in a way that will make the next generation after us worthy and faithful and committed to the Lord. Why here does he talk about youth as arrows? He does talk about them as the fruit of the womb, but then he says they're like arrows in the hands of a warrior. Well, what is it about an arrow and a bow that children are like, and having children are like? Well, you may have noticed when I shot the arrow just then that there's, the mechanics of shooting an arrow with a bow are a lot like, let's say, a golf swing in the sport of golf, or bowling, if you've ever gone bowling. Everything that you do in terms of how you stand, what you do with your arms, which way your body is facing, where you pull back the string to, and and little things that you do with your hands and your fingers, how you let go of the string, everything that you do is going to affect the direction of the arrow. And that's what it's like to have children. As a parent, as a director or a counselor out at camp, everything that we do, the way that we talk, the way that we go about our work, the way we speak about God, the way we speak about other people, the way we speak to other people, everything that we do, all the little nuances in our behavior and our speech throughout the day is having an impact on the children who are watching us as adults. We are teaching them. We may not have sat them down and stood before them and started verbally giving them a lesson of some kind. Not all of us are maybe very good at that or wanting to be engaged in that. But all of us are teaching children just by the way we live, even if they aren't our own children. And it's like the archer but especially if you have children, you are like an archer who is putting an arrow in a bow and pulling back on the string. You are setting a direction and a course for that arrow. Now here's something to remember about it, and I think this is also a part of why the arrow is such an important illustration of what happens with children. When I let go of the string and launched the arrow, I gave it direction, I gave it that impetus to move towards the target. But once I let go, that arrow was on its own. There's a lot of things that could have happened to that arrow after I let it go that might have thrown it off course and prevented it from hitting the target. But when I had the arrow in the bow and with my hands and under my influence, I at least was able to set the right direction and give some intentional guidance to where the arrow would go. But at some point, I let go and the arrow is on its own. That's a good illustration of what we do with children. You know, while children are under our care, under our influence, we want to point them in the right direction. We want to do all the little things we can to launch them towards the right targets in this world. We want to give them a foundation of faith. We want to introduce them to God's Word. We want to show them what love and kindness is. We want them to come to know Jesus. We want them to learn how to mature and grow. We want them, to be good with other people, to learn how to speak well and to work well, all of those things. And we're going to have a lot of influence and control over them while they are our children, and especially if they're in our household or they're with us for a week out here at camp. But once we let them go, and there is a time when we let them go, they are on their own. And we've done what is our responsibility to do. And I like how the Psalm says, "Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them." In other words, has a bunch of arrows. Because what happens, of course, is not every arrow is going to hit the target. And so if you only shoot one arrow and it misses, then that's pretty disappointing. So the blessing that we need to be reminded of is that every child that we invest in has potential. And so let's do what we can for each child. Recognize that some maybe are going to miss the target, but let's just trust in the process that God has given us and make the best of it. If He's given us children who live in our household, if He's given us children who come to our church, if He's given us children who we work with at camp, if He's given us children because we're a teacher and we have them as students, if He's given us children who live up and down our street, let's invest in them, point them in the right direction, give them a good push, a good launch towards the things of God, and then let's let them go and leave it in the hands of God where they end up. And that's all we can do, and that's what we need to do with children, because they are a heritage from the Lord. And so I hope those thoughts encourage you. There's more to the psalm. I didn't read the first 2 verses, and it talks about other things like, building a house, but unless the Lord builds the house. Anyways, there's just a lot of things in this short psalm. It's a short psalm, worth reflecting on, and worth reflecting on how God is using you, or how God could be using you to influence the children in your world. And remember that God's grace is for you in 2022.